Wondering how your mindset affects your life? How to bring more energy into your business and life? Millions of people around the world ask these same questions daily. You are in the right place. Learn practices that will help give your life the meaning and success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Charge Podcast, teaching you how to create habits around real goals every day. Practical life advice from those who made it. Here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Welcome, Chargers. We're glad to have you back again this week. It's hard to believe it's already 2020. Can you believe how fast the year is going? Every year I keep saying it's going to slow down, but it never does. So, Chargers, you've got to realize, what do you got to get done to be able to really move yourself forward each day? And that's what the Charge Podcast is for, and that's why I'm glad you come back each and every time. Because my goal is to find different guests with different experiences. And I'm telling you, you're going to love our guests this week. And if you have students in grade school or high school or even in college, I think you're going to really enjoy this podcast. Today, we've got Larry Stevenson. He began helping people find and earn scholarships in 1984 when he read about one girl with a 3.6 GPA who earned $310,000 before the age of computers. He spent the last decade helping thousands of students from 13 to 62 years of age to earn free money for college. As a professional trainer, he taught 1,700 plus groups in 22 plus countries. He has authored 5 books, including Get Free Money for College, Enjoy $100,000 in Scholarships at Any Age, and How to Find 50 to 100 Scholarships Perfect for You. Now, Larry, you've got my attention because guess what? I have 3 teenagers, 2 already in college, and the last one's a senior. So you've caught my attention, but I want to welcome you to the Charge Podcast.
Thank you, Gary. It's wonderful to be here, and hello, all you Chargers.
Well, we are so glad to have you. It's a new year. We're in 2020 now and really trying to work out those plans where a lot of people are finding out that they're getting into that where their kids are real close to graduating. And it doesn't matter what grade. I have a senior, so she's really flowing into getting those scholarships in. And I think this is going to be a very prevalent topic. So I appreciate you sharing your expertise with the audience. Now, before I start every podcast, Larry, I always ask everyone the same question because it's a mantra I have of charge. Create habits around real goals every day. So I'm curious, from your standpoint, what habit or habits led to success in your life?
I have 3 main habits that I think have helped. I'm a person of faith. I pray every day. I read something from the scriptures or uplifting books every day. And I begin every day by looking at what I want to accomplish that day. And at the end of the day, I review what I accomplished and get ready for the next day. Those are the 3 habits I do literally every single day.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference because it allows your faith to show through. You kind of know what you want by reading that and then writing down what you want to accomplish. We hear that from a lot of people that when you write something down, you're more likely to achieve it. There's studies that show the research that's there. So this is a good one because in writing, they may be filling out more applications in writing, but they normally have to write some too with scholarships. So we're going to really dig into this because I think it's a topic that, number one, I'm interested in. Of course, I'll say whenever I talk about it, Larry, I'll be talking about my friend, which my friend is my wife and I are going through this right now. But I'm just curious, how does the audience find 70 to 100 scholarships at any age in life? So you're not talking just about kids that are getting out of school. If they want to go back to school, there's scholarships out there for them.
Exactly. When I first started this, we found most of the scholarships were for seniors in high school and for people who are existing students. But currently, we found just last year, FindAid.org has a list of 28 scholarships for 13-year-olds.
Wow.
So we're telling people now you got to start at 13. There are over 220 we've identified that you have to be a sophomore to apply. If you're a junior, too late. And there's another 300 plus just for juniors. But we also worked with one lady, she was 62 years old, and she found $6,000 in a year. So we can go from 13 to 62 based on my experience so far.
Wow, that's just amazing. I would never realize that they could start even as a freshman. So really what I said in the intro, no matter what age your child is, there's some practical information that you can take away and walk away with to really be able to understand that.
That's
Now,
true. If I could interrupt for a
sure,
second,
go right ahead.
as I'm doing my presentations, I like to have the parents and the youth there. But I start by telling the youth, right now, your parents are here for you. But about halfway through, they're going to change and they're going to say, I'm going to go for the money myself. And we've had a lot of parents who then go back. We had one lady, she was a 30-something single parent of 2 children. She had done her freshman and sophomore year getting some assistance from her church and the government, and she was tired of that. And it took a year, but at the end of 1 year, she had tuition, books, and housing for all of her junior and senior year, and she had $98,000 for her graduate program, which only cost $48,000.
Wow, that's just amazing. It just shows you that there's opportunities out there if you're willing to do the work to be able to find them and then do the work of filling out the applications and applying for them. Is
Yes.
that one of the biggest things that you see, is that people are willing to do the work to be able to apply for the scholarships?
Yes, we tell them that it's going to take about 100 hours. We had one girl, she was an overachiever. She did 320 hours. But what we tell them is if you take 100 hours and plan on it taking that long, and you only get $4,000, you just made $40 an hour, which isn't bad for a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old.
Yeah, that's very good. And it makes a real difference because the challenge today is scholarships, college keeps rising and the costs go up. So you've got to find ways that really can attract that. And just think, 80 hours is not that long. And if you just take the time to fill it out, it's really about 3 or 4 hours a week tops that you can do. And sometimes you can even do it in less than that, depending when you start in the process. So, Larry, I'm curious, what does your audiences say to scholarship committees to prove that they deserve the money? How do you kind of make yourself stand out among other applicants?
The first thing that we have to work with is too many people don't believe they deserve the scholarship. They've been taught their whole life to be humble, don't brag, don't be conceited, and they're used to either dealing with generalities or understating what they've done. So first, we have to get them to recognize they deserve the money. Second, we have them prepare what we call scholarship statements. There are 36 of them that they copy and paste. We build them around 4 themes. Everyone has at least 4 themes in their life. It could be academics, could be athletics, creative talent, leadership, survivors. You identify those 4 things that really apply to you. Then you find 3 situations or courses for each one, and then you come up with 3 specific examples of your achievements for each situation. So let's say that the theme they're going to do is leadership. So they look at leadership in the community, leadership in their school, leadership in their church. Then they look at 3 specific examples where their leadership affected somebody. They make it into a sentence, and then they're going to refine the sentence 6 times to perfect it. And then once they have it perfected, they just copy and paste it into the blanks on the application that say, describe your leadership experience. What are your extracurricular activities, etc.
Yeah. Wow. And that just makes it so much simpler because when you've got those templates, filling out multiple applications become a lot easier.
That's the key. We believe in assembly lines and reusable materials rather than making them from scratch.
Oh, wow. I love that because I know with my daughter, she's been filling out some, and we always say, make sure you save that information into a document because you can reuse that. And a couple of her brothers have went through that, and she's noticed that, they ask a lot of similar questions on the application process.
Exactly.
What's some of the things you see from when you talk about, you see the scholarship committees, what they're looking for? So they're looking for some of those statements. What's something else that you could share with them that would help someone that's in that process of filling out applications now?
Part of it is to realize that there are scholarships for almost anything. There's scholarships for red-headed, left-handed Eagle Scouts, and I had 3 red-headed, right-handed Eagle Scouts.
Can you become a left-handed? You had to ask,
I tried to
right?
get them to go ambidextrous, especially in their baseball. It would have made them more powerful players, but it didn't work.
That's right.
So part of it is there are scholarships, and this is one that people don't know. There are scholarships for people with a 2.0 grade point average. Because somewhere along the line, somebody had an experience that they felt held them back, and then they overcame that and succeeded, and they're now giving money to help other people overcome that. So part of it is to not rule yourself out. There's this myth that only certain kinds of people get scholarships, and it's just not true. There's a wide variety of people.
Share with me, if you would. You've talked about it, and we talked about it a little bit in opening about people getting scholarships. What's one of your stories that brings kind of the greatest satisfaction to you, the people that you've helped?
One of them was one client we had. She was an overachiever. She was a 4.0. She started when she was 13 years old. And she earned $360,000 between her 13th and her 18th birthday.
Wow.
Another one, I love this one. We had done a presentation, and we had come back to that same audience a year later. They had invited us back to do a presentation. And after the presentation, a mother and her son came up, and she was ticked. And I'm going to be upfront, Gary. Mad mothers scare the bejesus out of me.
I understand.
And she came up and she said, "We attended your workshop last year, and my 17-year-old son and I came to hear it again." And we could tell she was angry. So we said, "Well, ma'am, did he get any money?" She said, "Yes, he got $47,000. Now I'm thinking, $47,000 as a 1-year salary for a 17-year-old is pretty good.
That's right.
So we said, "Well, ma'am, how many scholarships did he apply for?" 9. How many did he get? 7. By this time, we couldn't figure out why she's upset. So we said, "You're obviously upset. Why are you upset?" And at this point, I'm telling all your listeners, the parents, listen very carefully, and your students, listen very carefully. She said he qualified for 148, and he stopped at 9, and now I have to pay the rest. And we looked at her and we said, "If he chose to stop, why should you pay the rest?"
I agree with that one wholeheartedly.
See, we find a lot of the youth who are still in high school, all they're thinking about is tuition. And when they get to the tuition, they stop. When they're in college or they're non-traditional students coming back, they recognize college involves tuition and books and lab fees and housing and food. And if you want to leave state and not live at home, you have to get travel and all those things. We had one 17-year-old, he got it. He figured everything out he would need. He knew he lived on the West Coast and he wanted to go to the East Coast to Boston to school. He figured 2 computers, housing, food, air transportation for every holiday and summer. And then he added $6,000 for dating. And he got all of it.
So you can really, if you put a plan, you can achieve the plan is really
exactly.
What
it's what you said. You create habits around goals, real goals every day.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the key. And that's where real success comes in, because I think as parents, this is one of the areas that we've got to do a better job of mentoring our students in and our children in being able to get those, because otherwise the challenge becomes if the parents decide that they're going to pay for it, the parents take on all the liability. And the challenge is what is that really teaching our students? And what is that teaching our kids? Because when they get out of college and they get their first job or their first career, and it doesn't matter if they make 40,000 or 100,000, you're going to spend what you make. And the challenge they're going to have is, are they going to be able to learn how to save and put things in perspective? But when you do the discipline of filling out scholarships, you're starting to create a discipline of learning about life lessons that's there. And I think that's one of the keys that comes out of the life lessons.
That's
Plus,
excellent.
you get some free money.
Gary. Yes, it's excellent. If I could add one thing to what you're saying, because you're right on target, especially since the admission scandal that we've been living through this in 2019, college committees have become much more aware of when the parents are doing the work for the children. And they reject as soon as they see that that's happening, and they can tell. They reject those applications almost immediately. It's become much more in the spotlight because of the admission scandal.
Yeah, that makes very good sense. That's there. Well, tell me, with high school and college students and really just even working people, everybody's challenged with that time inventory. And it doesn't matter if you're working or if you're going to students, but for sure, students have that. So what do you see as far as how much time does it take to find and apply for these scholarships, putting in some of the systems you're talking about?
We have a checklist. We recognize there isn't enough time. And so we identified what they can do every single week for 90 minutes for a whole year. And the first part of that, 90 minutes a week, they're preparing those reusable materials. They're finding their scholarships. And then once they have those reusable materials and the scholarships, after about the third month, it takes about 3 months at 90 minutes a week to get the materials. Then they're doing 3 to 4 applications every week in 90 minutes. So using this checklist, they can apply for 105 scholarships in 1 year in just 90 minutes a week.
Wow. So that shows you kind of the myths, the time myth, because the challenge is, what does most people do? They're doing everything last minute.
Yep.
I've got to get
from
this
scratch.
And from scratch. So no templates, and it makes things a lot harder. And they don't have a system set up. And what you've just created is a system that's there.
Yes.
You've authored several books. So I'm just curious to ask you, and you share with me out of one of your books. I know I love some of the names like Get Free Money for College, but I'll let you pick the book that you think comes out of. But what's something out of one of the books that you've shared that we've talked about, a multiple things that you think people need to really think about, and then share that book title to them too. So if they want to access and get it, they'll remember what it is. And we'll put it in show notes too also, Larry.
I have a brief, it's a very short ebook called How to Find 70 to 100 Scholarships Perfect for You. And in that book, we go through some tips to avoid the scams. There are a lot of scams and phishing and a lot of problems out there in the scholarship world where they're trying to sucker people in. We tell how to avoid those. But we also go into depth on 11 specific sources on how to use them more effectively to find and vet the scholarships that are perfect for you. And it's a simple, easy to read book, and each section is about one source.
And that ebook, I think you said that they can access through your website. Is that correct?
They can get it through my website, or if they want to text the word scholarship book, all one word, to 66866, they'll get a free download.
Okay. That's scholarship book. Give me that text number again, Larry.
Scholarship book at 66866.
6866.
2 sixes.
668.
2 sixes.
2666. So we're going to have it in show notes because it's too hard to write down. And most likely you're doing something active right now listening to our podcast. But no, that's in chargepodcast.com. And you text that, you'll get the free ebook that's available to you. I appreciate you offering that to our listeners and people that's interested.
Anything for chargers.
Yeah, that's right. Check it out, because this allows you to really, and it doesn't matter, again, if your student's an 8th grader, get the book now, because like he was telling you, you can start some of that planning as a freshman. You're going to even be in a better spot than where I'm at, where my daughter's already a senior. And same way with the ones that are already in school. And I'm going to be checking out some of those resources myself, because I've got 2 that's in college, and they can still apply for some scholarships instead of thinking, okay, what they've got, they're just happy with.
Exactly. And in addition to that, the tips in there also go for graduate school. So if you've got someone in college and they're planning on graduate school, they can get money for graduate school.
Excellent. Well, Larry, we've been covering a lot of topics, and I kind of want to leave this is I think you know what the audience, and we've shared a lot of information, but what would be something before we wrap up that you think that you would like to either tell the parents, most likely they're the ones listening, but even if it's that they need to be telling their students, is there anything else that we've not covered that you'd love to share with our audience?
One thing we found is for the parents to make this both fun and rewarding. So when the students are going through the sources, sit right next to them for the first few and help them recognize the things that they can say in the profiles. Keep reinforcing, look, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. People are giving money away for this. Then get them together in friends when they're creating those scholarship statements and they need the examples. It works really well when you do it in groups. It can be a family group where they're discussing things the family has done. It can be bringing their friends over and they all start brainstorming things at school and things in the community, and make it fun and keep them motivated. Keep reminding them, yes, it's hard work, but remember, if you only get $4,000 in 100 hours, that's $40 an hour. But if you get $10,000, you're making $100 an hour. So you just keep motivating them with telling them the good things they've done, keep with it, and put them in groups so they motivate each other.
So some great advice for us as parents, how we can really motivate our students, really a good way to look at college. How can you pay for it? I know it's a stress right now, and you probably even have some stats and statistics that, you know, of the stress that it puts on households with the college costs these days. But there's opportunity out there, and that's what Larry does. And he's got several books. So if you want to check them out, again, I'll share those. Get free money for college. Enjoy $100,000 in scholarships at any age. How to find 50 to 100 scholarships perfect for you. He gave you a free ebook you can get. Any of those you can get from the bookstore. And also his website is a great resource of information. Larry, if you would you share that of how they can reach out to you? Yes,
it's scholarships@anyage.com. So that's scholarships, plural, scholarships@anyage.com.
So you can check out his resources that he has available on his website, get some of the information. I know he does some speaking, come out to organizations. If you got somebody who'd like to book him in our area that would, he would be glad to do that. But check him out. And really, I think this is a topic that is so prevalent. And I just appreciate you sharing it with our audience, Larry.
It's my pleasure, Gary.
I just can't thank you enough, because I know myself, I'm in this stage. And the nice thing is, when I read your information, I knew it didn't apply to just someone that had a senior in school or a student that is just getting close to graduating. It applies to students. Really, if you've got a newborn, you could start now in the process of really building up the information that you have. So when your child does become that age, you're going to have that capability. And folks, scholarship means it is what I call free money. And there's not much better than that in the world. So I know, Larry, you've changed a lot of people's lives in that, and that's made, I'm sure, a big difference in your life.
It has. It's very rewarding.
Anything else you'd like to share before we go to the recharge round?
One last thing, a story I love to tell was a kid who had a 3.1 grade point average. Now, that's not what people think of scholarships, but he knew three things. He wanted to be a mechanical engineer. He wanted to go to the top mechanical engineering school in his state, and he didn't want to live at home. So when he was 13, he made a rocket chart, because once again, he's going to be an engineer. Yeah. And he marked off how much money he needed for every semester, tuition, books, and housing. When he graduated, he still only had a 3.1. He never got it higher. But he had all but the last 3 months of his 5 years at college at the top engineering school totally colored in. This can work whether you have low grades, great grades, whatever you are.
So the key is doing something, yes. Taking action. And what he did, he set a goal. So that allowed him to take that action. We talk about it all the time. You create habits around real goals every day. It allows you to take action to be able to move yourself forward. Larry,
Exactly.
I can't thank you enough for sharing the stories, and I really recommend our audience go out there, check out his books, check out his website. Again, Larry, give your website one more time, and we're going to have it in show notes too.
Scholarships@anyage.com. I
Okay.
also have a YouTube channel of the same name.
Okay, super. So check out the YouTube channel. So if you'd rather watch videos, you've got that capability and it's covered too. But we're not going to let Larry go just yet because he's got to go through the recharge round also, because I love asking these questions. It's kind of my framework that I speak about, Larry. That's why it's important to me. But I want audience members to hear perspectives from people around the country and around the world that has different perspectives here. My first one for you is share how you believe your mindset affects your daily living.
I was very lucky to have parents who taught me a mindset that the purpose of all of this is to find joy, not temporary happiness, but real joy. And that we have the power within us to accomplish good things. And that there's an abundance. Those three mindset, the abundance mentality, the power is in me, and we're here to have joy, has driven my life all the way along.
I love that. And I love that, it was instilled to you at a young age. So since we're talking to parents in this section, is the words you use will affect your children for the rest of their life. I tell educators sometimes, Larry, when I'm visiting with them, that how you approach and inspire those students at that age will inspire them for the rest of their lives. And parents, we're in that same boat. And look at Larry. He has that example to be able to share with you. Now, what do you do daily, Larry? And maybe it's on the days that energy is not as great. It's pretty easy sometimes to come, but some days it's a little bit harder. What do you do to bring that energy into your life?
I do three things. I pray morning, noontime, and night. I feast on the good word of God, and I get up and I act. I make sure that I have a list of things to do every day.
And that gets you going and gets everything rolling. How about the number one connection or relationship that's made the biggest impact on your life?
Boy, that's a tough one because I have had so many great connections. I think one of them was my very first mentor out of college was the business manager for Latham and Watkins, the biggest law firm in Los Angeles. And he gave me some great information, mentoring, and connections.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. How about what advice has influenced your life the most?
Best advice came from my third mentor, and he said, there is no end to the amount of good you can do as long as you don't care who gets the credit.
Mm-hmm. That is some great advice there, is not worrying about the credit. Instead, what good can you do? And
Exactly.
Just like what you're doing today, sharing with our audience. I appreciate that. How about a book that you really love, and why does it make that book kind of make your top of your list?
Boy, that's a tough one because I'm a big reader. One book that I really love was by Jeff Thompson called The Zookeeper's Story, on how to find your charge in life, your purpose. Another one was the Scriptures. I'm a firm believer in the Scriptures. Anything by David McCullough. I love his histories. But to have one book, that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there. And if you're reading good books, and I will tell you, folks, you can go to Audible. I've got a capability. We'll have it on the show notes where you can access Audible and get a free month trial free if you like that. However you like to it, just dig into it. Make that in 2020 one of your goals, that you're going to read some books. If you've not read a book for a while, just put down that you're going to do one a month. And just give yourself that goal to see if you can achieve that. It will make an impact on your life each and every day. My last question for you, Larry, is what's a sentence that would define the legacy you want to leave the world?
He helped create a society of unity where there were no people excluded, that they dwelt in good habits, righteousness, if you will, and more importantly, there was no poor among them. Everybody prospered because everyone helped one another.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And we prosper today from you sharing with us. And I know our Chargers are going to love this. I know it's going to be very practical to them to be able to use each and every day in their life. And Larry, I just can't thank you enough for saying yes. Larry and I was sitting next to each other this last summer in the National Speakers Association, I think at a luncheon, and we got to speaking and talking to each other and talking about our businesses, and we made that connection. And I asked him then, I was pretty bold because I always am seeking out good podcast guests. And I said, Larry, would you join me on my podcast? And right away, Larry said yes. He didn't hesitate a bit. And today we're doing that. And I just feel so honored that you said yes to our audience.
Oh, Gary, I'm honored to be invited. Your podcast is doing a lot to help people.
Well, thank you for that. And Larry, thank you for saying yes. Remember, folks, we have all those notes and where you can get to Larry's website and get his information. He gave you the opportunity to get a free ebook, and you can text to that. We'll have all that in show notes available to you. All you have to do is go to chargepodcast.com, and those notes will be there, and we will have that information for you. So make sure you check that out. Remember, what are you going to take action on? Maybe you have only a 5-year-old and you think, oh, that's so far away. Remember, it comes up quick. Remember, we've been talking about in 2020, it's not just about what we're going to do in 2020. It's what are we going to accomplish in this decade? Let's say you have a 5-year-old. Guess what? That 5-year-old will be 15 when the decade is over, 14 or 15. So it's time to start planning now. So let's take those actions and create those habits that allow us to achieve that each and every day. Larry, again, thanks for having us and joining us today on the Charge Podcast.
Thank you very much, Gary, and good luck, Chargers. Make it happen.
Chargers, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back here right next week with another great podcast, guys. Come join us. Remember, like and share it, and send this to other people. If you know people that have kids, this would be a great podcast to refer to them and tell them to check out. Go out and make it a great day. We'll see you back here next week.
This podcast is ended, but your life doesn't just stop. To continue your inspiring journey, head over to chargepodcast.com and access all the tools and resources mentioned on today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing with somebody who may also benefit from the advice provided. That's chargepodcast.com. Until next time, charge in business and life.